Hey everybody, welcome for another episode, a new episode. Unfiltered and intentional. We're back at it again. It's been a while. We were here, not last week, the week before that.
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Talking about Diddy. I don't even know if we should say his name.
No,
That's a whole nother conversation within
right.
it. But with that being said, we're going to be talking about Trump. He may be your president, he may not be, but we're going to be talking about him. That's a lot to talk about. I actually had a couple of people uh, send me messages on questions that they wanted to ask. They didn't show up they didn't want to be guests, but they was like, hey, ask this, hey, ask this. So, hey, we're going to ask those questions before we
Okay.
get into the show and start talking about some of these interesting topics. I definitely want to make sure that you guys go on YouTube and like and subscribe and share. Like I said, I stopped for a minute. Liz called me 2 weeks ago, was like, we need to talk about this. There's some things going on. I have my brother Charles right here. When he was a guest in the past, I used to get text messages like, he's so controversial. People were like pulling out their hair. You either love him or hate him, but he's my brother, so oh well. But no, all jokes aside, make sure you like and subscribe and share. But we're going to just kind of jump into some things and kind of keep it rolling. So, just recently, if you haven't been tuning in, your previous president, Donald Trump, was found guilty of 34 felony charges. Um, that's unprecedented. You have not heard that before of a president being charged.
Unprecedented, all of it.
I didn't hear about that, but it's the first time for everything. We're in 2024, so anything can go. So before I start, I have a shirt that actually says "War on Injustice," and it has like the Black Power fist and everything up.
Okay.
But when Leroy was saying the justice system was corrupt, nobody listened to him. But now when Donald Trump is saying it, you got the whole half of the White House saying it's true.
Oh my gosh.
So before we even get into how you feel about all this other stuff, why nobody was listening to Leroy when he was saying that he can't get no justice around here? Anybody want to jump in?
Wow, that's a great first question. So, first of all, hi guys. You want to say good night to everybody. We're going to be reading your comments, so keep them coming. When you're talking about why wasn't injustice such a big deal before?
Yeah.
Because Leroy didn't look like Trump.
Okay.
Leroy didn't come from Trump's world. All of a sudden, you have all these billionaires, because it's not just him. All these billionaires, these New York billionaires, or not even New York billionaires from everywhere, saying like, this injustice can't stand. And it's so strange how concerned they are with, the Lady Liberty and her blindfold and everything else. Now, I'm not sure, because it's funny. Trump himself, remember the whole Central Park?
Yes.
And his full page
ad about
the death penalty. He had no interest whatsoever in the criminal justice system playing itself out then, or criminal justice reform, or innocent people going to jail. Actually, he had a very, very, very deep stake in it going the other way. Weird how now it's political prosecution, and that it's wrong for you to want to lock up your opponents. When didn't he start this shit with lock her up? Wasn't that him? That was him and his people.
Before you jump in, Charles, it's interesting. I seen a clip of Donald Trump talking about Hillary Clinton, and this is during the last election, and he was like, it would be catastrophic if there was a president running, somebody running for office, and they had a felony charge. She cannot run. She shouldn't run. How dare she run? Is there a reason why you think Charles? I don't want to just say it's Fox News in particular, but it's kind of like they literally rewrite history as if he's never said any of those things.
It never happened. It didn't happen.
How do we remember that, but no one else? What do you think it is? Amnesia?
Well, here's the deal. When you have a professional con man get up, who's very well versed at conning in the business world, and now he's doing the exact same thing in the political world. And unfortunately, the political world is easier to be a con man in the political world. Okay, even more so than in the business world, because in the business world, there's a bottom line. My pockets. If you're hurting my pockets, if the shareholders are upset, okay, they can get rid of you. You can be voted out. CEOs have been voted out. You can't do that when you're a politician. Okay, especially when you're a politician going in for the highest office. So the very fact that he's able to have felony charges and continue running for president is because basically in the U.S. Constitution there is no regulation against that. Most states have regulations against that. So in New York State, there's a regulation against someone running for governor or running for the New York State Senate. They cannot have a felony. Most states have that. I think when I researched whatever, I think there's 46 states that have laws that are like that. And then the other states that don't have that have some type of wording that allows them to block the person because of character issues, whatever. So we sit there and say this guy has a bad character, so we can kind of get rid of them. But it doesn't say that for the president of the United States. So yes, a felon, a convicted felon, a rapist, a murderer could in fact, run for president because there is no stipulation that says that. And with the current group of judges we have in the Supreme Court, those conservatives like Clarence Thomas, who are originalists, basically, as it was written in the 1800s, the later end of the 1700s, going into the 1800s. Okay, that's how it should be. So the Second Amendment, when we were walking around with back in the days with muskets, that applies. That rule applies now.
So I have a question, and the question came from, like I said, there are some people that sent me questions in advance, like, hey, ask these questions. So of course I'm going to be asking the question, and then I'm going to jump into the comments here. One of the questions is there a reason why there seems to be an upsurge, or you see more and more Black men wanting to vote for Donald Trump? Now, here's the thing.
Good question. Hey
now. I was sent some questions. So, just to throw a little bit of history into it. This was a comment that was made. The comment was like, why are Black men in particular forgetting the Biden laws that were written or established, and then of course Clinton pushed them for when Black men were gathered by the droves and locked up. Of course, when they're locked up, you have the Black men and women, Spanish and Black. They're getting raped, beat. They're just being, specifically targeted. And this is all because of the doing of Joe Biden. He does not have Black people's interests to begin with. So this is him in the 70s and 80s. So of course, we were kids. We were just being born. We don't even remember that, but our parents do. So why is it today you hear, now this is going into the question that was just asked, why do we hear about more and more Black men saying, hey, I think I'm going to go ahead and vote for Trump? Even though we know about Trump and his background. So you have this controversy with Biden and what he established, but why would we be so comfortable to vote for Biden knowing that he threw so many black men into jail, just kind of woohoo, and then now you already know what Trump's about. Like, tell me what's going on with that. What that was the question I was asked in reference to black men voting for Trump instead of Biden, or should they be voting for Biden?
That was a lot rolled into one.
It was. It was.
Not rolled into one. First of all, no African American, none of my African American male associates, male and men. You know, I have a very clear distinction between the two. Have ever said that they're voting for Trump.
Okay.
So within my circle, I have not heard that at all. Now, from what I have seen, and I have seen men from our ethnic demographic saying that they are going to vote for Trump, and most of that appears to come from they want the system to burn down. So, you know, they're willing to go ahead and vote for someone. And again, this does not apply to all of them.
Of course. A certain group of people. Yeah.
That I have interacted with. Again, they're not in my circle, but they're friends of friends or associates.
Yeah.
So from what they're saying is that, you know, I'm going to vote for Trump because I know Trump's going to burn this shit down to the fucking ground. So that's their reasoning. Now, for those who vote for him and support him, that's a totally different reason. Okay, because you can vote for someone in hopes that they go ahead and do something. As I said before, I mean, a lot of people may not have liked the comment. I said Trump is the best thing that ever happened to this country. Okay, and they're like, oh my goodness, how can you say that? I said, well, he is. You get to see every single bigot, prejudiced person who's always wanted to go ahead and call you the N-word. You saw them come out in droves, and now you get to see them. So now I get to say to John and to Jason, to Brad. Okay. Well, you know, all these years you were bullshitting. Okay, when I called you a bigot, but now I get to see you and call you out.
Mm-hmm.
So now I even feel more justified when I tell you, you know, if you step into my zone trying to harm my family, I'm gonna break your fucking jaw or whatever. Guess what? I feel totally justified for it, whatever. Because now you letting me know your true colors. Before I can sit there and say, well, you know, but
just to kind of interject real quick. So now we have, okay, so this is the reason. So just to use that one reason you gave. So there are some particular black men who are saying, you know what, we want this thing just to burn down. He's gonna bring chaos, and guess what? Right. We want chaos. Let's start from the scratch and let's do it. Now, bringing it to you, Liz, why should they vote for Biden knowing that their fathers and all these black men were incarcerated by the droves because of something that he established?
Okay. So the snowball just keeps kind of growing bigger and bigger. But I'm going to toss out there, Charles, while I kind of agree with you, I'm still not going to say that Trump did that because I refuse to give him credit for pretty much anything. I actually think Obama did that. I think he brought out the bigots and the worst of everybody. And it's because, you know, they could not see a black family in the White House, that they all they took their hoods off and they came out in the streets with their tiki torches and everything else. So I'm still not giving Trump credit for that. I'm putting that on the guy before him. So, you know, that's the best person that ever happened to the United States. I'm sticking to it. Now, in terms of why it is that you should vote for Biden, oddly, I'm going to tie this into last week's episode. Toward the end of the episode, I asked you, Kia, if you think that somebody is capable of changing. And at the time, we were talking about, you know, once a wife beater, always a wife beater. And we both actually agreed that, you know what, people can change. Right? The thing
just to put it out there, I also said it takes therapy, counseling, it takes all the community.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
You know, 30 years ago and you healed.
Wake up with a new opinion, but I do think that life experience, education, I think a lot of things lead to growth, right? And I mean, so say what you want to say about Biden, but he's also the first person that's elevated a woman, let alone a woman of color, to the position that Kamala Harris is in. Clearly, he's changed some opinions. I mean, clearly he's changed something about some of the
I
things that
think
he
that was to
believes.
get the black vote. Well, maybe
I
you
mean,
heard
he
that.
did get the black vote, but at the end of the day, he understood the worth of the black vote. Whereas once upon a time, he didn't understand the worth of a black person at all, which is why lock them all up, right? So, I all of it, you can't have it both ways, and in its own way, it still works, right?
I agree with Liz on that, whatever, because you sit there and understand too that Biden also served under Obama.
Period. Which we forget.
Looking for
Biden's
more
trash.
than more than one example of I'm not saying that the man changed, in his heart. Okay, you can go ahead and do something totally contrary to your personal beliefs, all because it's economically viable. Perfect for that, Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson wrote very clearly that slavery is an abhorrent practice. It is, not using the words of that time, but using the words of our time. He pretty much said it's a crime against humanity. It is something that should not be done. But yet he was a slave owner. And why was he a slave owner? Well, because he said it assured his economic viability. And that's paraphrasing the man. So, if you can have one person who sits there and says that I feel one way about something, but they know, they're this right here, lining their pockets, whatever, they'll do something that's totally against their own principles or their so-called principles, because economics is their god. So in this case, let's say Biden did not change whatsoever. He did not change. Okay, he still thinks, as when he was senator of Delaware, that the school buses should be segregated. Okay, because that's basically what he said. All right, so let's just say he still feels that way. But the fact still remains is he knows for his political viability, whatever, that he depends on a certain demographic for his vote. Okay, he depends on these people, so he will go ahead and cater to them. Do I think it's the same thing that Trump does? They do exactly the same thing. You think fucking Trump cares about these evangelist Christians that are white nationalists that are really behind him? Trump don't give two shits about them, whatever. Okay, but he knows he needs them to keep his ass out of fucking jail. All right. So he will cater and pander to them to get their vote, the whole 9 yards, whatever, so that they will go ahead and potentially win, so he can stay out of fucking jail, because he knows that's the potential that could possibly happen. He don't give two shits about him. Trump only cares about himself, which is Trump.
Let me go ahead and read some of his comments real quick. Great evening, blessings. Hey. Good evening. Hey. You want to read it, Liz?
We got Cash saying, hey, family. Hey, Cash. All right. We got Ludi, who I think is a new commentator. So welcome to the discussion. And so good evening. Yet he wants to change the Constitution. We were talking about Trump.
What's interesting, and I'm going to stop right there for like 2 seconds. Not a long thing, but Charlamagne the God went on The View, and he was talking about how does anybody want to vote for a man who mentioned changing the Constitution? But I had somebody say, well, wait a second, how can you take him seriously? We all know that he struggles with communication. But my thing is, why would you play around with something like that? Like, why do you know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't want people to mislead or misread what you're saying, then why say it at all? So it's just kind of interesting how people will say stuff but kind of pacify, like, oh, well, you know that crazy old uncle that be cracking those jokes and those things. He's not going to really do nothing with the Constitution. Interesting.
So, we got another newcomer. Hi, Tehran. So, good evening. So, let's see. Here we go. So, Cash chimed in. This will be the second presidential election that I do not vote for either party. Until we get some serious transformative policy, I'm done. Ooh, put me in, coach.
All
right. So, Cash, here's what I'm going to say to you. Don't vote, and you will get that transformative policy. That's not the kind that you were looking for, because these people have plans, and they plan on transforming a lot of things. And when they transform you back to 3/5 of a vote, you're going to understand the importance of why it is that, you sometimes you got to, somebody told me this week, and I hadn't heard in a long time, if you're from up north and it snows and it gets icy on the road, you got to turn into the skid, right? So if your car starts spinning out of control, what you don't do is try to fight it. You have to turn into the skid. This is one of those instances where like I said, that transformative policy is coming. It is coming. They are actively, aggressively working towards it. And I promise you, it's not, the winds are not going to blow in your favor. Yes, you heard it here first.
I'm going to add to that. I'm going to add to that real quick. And I want to know, and once I add into that, please jump in, Charles, Liz, if you know a little bit more about it. So somebody also mentioned to me, please on the show mention Project 2025. So for those of you who do not know Project 2025, never heard of it, it's a project that the Conservative Party has been kind of working up together. And while we were talking about Diddy, and while we were talking about Blueface, and I guess people were shaking their ass or whatever they were doing to not pay attention to politics, our friends were going ahead and writing up some things. But anyway, what is Project 2025? Well, it's a presidential transition project. They have a lot of things that's in that bill. It's worth $22 billion, excuse me. Some of the things that they want to do if Donald Trump does get reelected. Replace tens of thousands with federal workers currently serving civil servants in Columbia, the District of Columbia, with conservatives. They want to defund the DOJ, the FBI, and Homeland Security. So basically, I don't know if you guys have kind of already noticed, Trump is in a lot of trouble. Trump stays in getting in trouble. And he's like, if we didn't have this shit to begin with, nobody would be looking at me. Now, I started the show off by saying, well, guess what, guys? I have a shirt about the war on injustice. Just so happens that when Leroy was complaining that there was some discrepancies in the justice system, nobody gave a fuck. But now Donald Trump is like, hey, the heat's on me. Y'all looking at me. Let's get this thing rolling. So he has it all lined up. Now, the crazy thing that I found real interesting, because you've heard defund the police, you've heard defund these systems a lot of times, especially when, there were riots and different things going on. That's when it actually became a catchphrase. But what I found really, really interesting was the Department of Education. I was like, wait a second. Because, of course, like I said, we always hear defund this, defund this. Why do they want to defund the department? Actually, excuse me. They want to abolish the Department of Education, whose programs would either be transferred to other government agencies or terminated. Basic research would be funded in the suits of conservative principles. Because a lot of times when you have education, it can start peeling down those layers. We're talking about slavery, we're talking about this, we're talking about immigration, we're talking about LGBT community, and we do not want the kids knowing this. The Conservative Party have already started their own private schools, the way we should have been starting more and more private schools, talking about conservative ideologies for their kids. Not talk like they one of the textbooks in Texas, they talk about how slaves came over because they wanted some work. They just wanted some work, and they just want to kind of
it was an employment. Absolutely.
Yes, they wanted to kind of get it together. Yeah. Also, the project urges the government to explicitly reject abortion as health care and to eliminate the Affordable Care Act coverage of emergency contraceptives. So that's a whole nother thing. So basically, they're not talking about exactly what's in the bill, but they're promoting this bill because it has a whole lot of things wrapped up in one. It keeps going on and on in reference to gender identity, diversity, they want, of course, we already know they wanted to get rid of the DIE programs. Of course, affirmative action. We don't even want to say the word for affirmative action. They also, they want to the project advises the future president to immediately deploy the military for domestic law enforcement and to direct the DOJ to pursue Donald Trump's adversaries by invoking the Insurrection Act of 1807. So basically, when you have the protests, Black Lives Matter, whatever, instead of the cops being there, we can activate immediately the military. So my question for you is, Charles, Liz, did you guys also hear about Project 2025? Because I wanted to, once again, bring it back to what Cash stated. Like, hey, I'm not voting for either party. I don't know what's going to happen. Did you guys hear about Project 2025?
Yes.
Yes. And none of that's a secret. That is who the conservatives are. That's who they've been. They have not been shy about it. Their policies are particularly egregious to women. Particularly, I don't know what this obsession is, right? But they are severely anti women's health, women's privacy, any type of choice that a woman could have. Any, like, I mean, they want to ban contraception, IVF. It's not just about abortion anymore. It is, I will control your body. We're about one step away from being Taliban type women around here. That is where we're
why do you think that is, Charles, in reference to the women? Because, of course, a lot of white women support Donald Trump, and these will be affecting them, their baby. Why do you think it's a target on women?
This country was founded on white Christian Puritan values. Okay. That is the bottom line. What this country was founded on. Okay, the English were Puritans. Okay, there's a 30-year war that they fought in Europe that gets glossed over in the American history books. Fighting basically over this exact thing we're fighting over right now. This is a repeat of the same exact thing. So now these when you mix in religious fundamentalism, which is what it is, okay, with cultural and racial superiority, or the belief in that superiority, again mixed in with nationalism. Okay, right. Now you're dealing with a 4-point cocktail of these extreme beliefs, where they believe that as a white woman they should be submissive to their husband, and naturally, if they're submissive to their husband, then all other women need to be submissive to their husbands. Okay. Because they are the shining example of what is prime and proper and what is pure and white, right? So now that you have that, whatever, okay, everyone else needs to go ahead and fall in line, fall in sync. Okay, it's the same thing. Whatever, why they keep interfering with Africa all the time, whatever. Okay, so Africa is a mineral rich continent. Okay, Africa does not need European intervention in any. They believe that their way of doing things is the example for everyone else to do things. All right. So here, and then you add on to the actual real fear, okay, that the actual makeup of this country is 100% changing from how it used to be. All right. The numbers of non-white people are growing dramatically, and a portion of that population, of that still majority population, is 100% fucking terrified. All right, that they're going to go ahead and be replaced, regardless of whether they feel it's true, whether it's true or not. That's what they feel. Okay, they feel that way. Whether you can't sugarcoat. How do we know they feel that way? Because they've said it.
Gotcha.
Okay? They are literally telling you how they feel. So believe them. Yeah. I believe them when they fear that they're being replaced. Okay.
Let me go ahead and go to the comments real quick.
All right, so Adele said Trump wants to be a dictator, and Charles and I saw his followers actually saying they're okay with that. It's mind-blowing, the ignorance of some. Yet
it's interesting. I'm gonna comment. I'm sorry to cut you off, Liz. I'm gonna comment to that. I literally heard somebody on the social media, and of course anybody can say anything on social media, and you don't know if it's true or not, whatever. But they was like, hey, how do you feel about Trump and these 34, charges? And he's like, he can literally rape somebody, I would still vote for him. I'm like, now, mind you, it could have been just for the likes, the clicks, and all that. But the fact that somebody actually said that was like, whoa. Like, that could be your mom. That could be like, yeah.
Like, how is that like, whoa? I mean, he literally has, right? And so here are the things that is not shocking that somebody said that. They've actually done it, right? He was, in fact, elected one time, right? And so, according to his people, he's been elected twice, so that's a whole different story, right? And so, but here's the thing is, if you know anything about Trump, he's always been terrible with women. His first wife, when, said that he beat the shit out of her and raped her. I remember being yay high and watching in the news as they were debating. I mean, I was a little kid, and they were talking about, can a husband rape his wife? And they were specifically talking about Trump. I actually remember that on my own. That's the 90s, right? And so you are talking about, he has raped women, and they know that. They voted for him anyway. He talked about walking through little girls' dressing rooms when he was running those pageants,
I remember that.
and they voted for him anyway. He literally has said out of his mouth when Howard Stern asked him, "Is it okay if I call your daughter a piece of ass?" He's like, "Yeah, she's hot," and they voted for him anyway. Right? He literally has 5 kids with 3 different women, and they voted for him anyway.
So the next comment says, "The stupid, all caps, women are supporting Trump." Charles,
Right.
do you feel that, I know you just mentioned about being replaced and these things, but do you think it's just this mindset of, one, I don't care anymore? Like, if like you said, if this whole thing just goes debacle, because it's kind of like, I feel the more and more I hear people talk, like I'm on a little island. How can you co-sign that? Like, how can you morally? Not saying that I understand when it comes to economics, oh, Trump's bringing me the money and da da da. But those comments there, just if you had a little girl, just if you had a wife or whatever, because I'm not even talking about white people, because you're like, oh yeah, well, white people are voting because they're trying to keep the status quo and da da da. We're not talking about race. We're talking about somebody who's brown skinned, somebody, the guy on the, down the block, a Spanish person, Spanish, gay, just all the different minorities that you can think of who are like, yes. And like, well, wait a second. Why are you voting against your own interests?
For example, just recently up in the Bronx, up in New York City, up in the Bronx, they had a large Trump rally.
Yes, they did.
Of course, he exaggerated the numbers and X, Y, and Z, but the fact remains that there was a significant Hispanic population there of supporters or people who claim to be Hispanic. So I wouldn't, and there is a drive within certain Hispanic political circles of identifying as white.
Yes.
And we know that just from the Proud Boys. The
leader was Hispanic. Yeah.
Cuban. He's Cuban. He's very brown, very lighter than me, but still, but he's dark. He's around your complexion, Akia. All right, and he says straight up, said, I'm Caucasian. Okay, so there is that, but just like in the African American community, whatever, they have the blacks for Trump. Okay, so you will always have people aligning against their own interests. Okay, especially when they think whatever that they're going to be saved in some other capacity. All right, so that's what, additionally, what we're dealing with. Okay, in addition to the fact whatever that he represents the person who's going to protect them from their fears. Okay, so when a person is fearful of something else and you're telling them, I will protect you from what you are fearing, they will vote against their interests in a heartbeat. Okay, especially when they don't feel they have no sense of self-empowerment on their own. A lot of my military buddies totally remember, okay, that are totally in support of Trump. All right. Now, I sit there and I question them all the time, whatever. Okay. We were raised in the Army values, right? Honor, duty, integrity, self-service, personal courage, responsibility, respect. Okay. These are all the tenets that as an NCO, you're supposed to live. Well, so as a soldier, period, but as an NCO, you're supposed to instill that onto others, right? So I would say to them, if Trump had joined the Army, would you want Trump to serve with you? And they all say no. And I said, okay, then why would you vote for him then? Absolutely no sense. That you are literally contradicting yourself. You're saying that you will vote for him, but you would never want to serve with him. If I cannot serve with this man, okay, in the foxhole, if I cannot watch him, because I know he would shoot me in the fucking back, then why would I want this man to be president?
No.
Okay? Every single one of them, they all say the same thing. He's an outlaw, and he's going to tear the system down. I said, oh, so you want chaos. You want destruction. You want the Constitution to be destroyed. So you're going against your very oath, which is to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Okay?
Wow.
Take your fucking stripes off and get the fucking walking. Okay? If you vote for fucking Trump.
Wow. Okay, we're going to get back to that. It says here, Cash, You want to read it, Les? Go ahead.
So Cash said, I don't trust the Democrats to be able to stop Project 25. They didn't stop Roe from getting overturned or affirmative action or the Voting Rights Act.
Yeah, but that's the problem, though. I mean,
Mhm.
just Cash, because at least they were there to try. Okay, there's a difference. You can roll over and just do nothing and take it up the ass. Okay, or you can go ahead and at least try to fight. Okay,
That's fair.
okay, you know, and I rather go out fighting than to sit there and say I did fucking nothing, whatever. Okay, and I got fucked over. Okay,
Right.
and also as much as I understand the viewpoint, wherever that, oh, this is not going to work, this is not going to work. No one says to have all your eggs in one basket. All right. So if you're the type of person, whatever, that thinks whatever, there's going to be some magic pill that's going to change this freaking country, whatever. Well, it hasn't changed since 1776. Okay. Think how the Civil War started. The Civil War did, and the abolishment of chattel slavery didn't occur because of this one event. Okay. It took a sequence of events. Okay. Successes and failures, where to finally drive everyone to the point where, listen, you know what? We have to knuckle up in order to put this discussion to the bed. And if they could have kept the Union and kept slavery, they probably would have had it. But guess what? The South drew their line in the sand. They said there will be no Union without slavery. And so the North said, okay, well, then I guess that's what happened. The South attacked the North, and there we go. But it took of events in order for that to happen. Okay. So when you're fighting against someone like Trump, you just can't say, "Oh, I got to leave it to the Dems." Okay, you know, you can't just go ahead and leave it up to the Democrats, whatever. Okay,
Go ahead.
You yourself should be calling. I called my senator last year, okay, to complain about something that bothered me. All right, and I got an email response. The more you complain, your senator should be on your speed dial. I have Schumer's number in my phone, okay, to his office. Okay, I can call that office anytime that I want to and leave a fucking very passionate message on where I stand. Okay, and that's what you should be doing, because this is your country. You have a responsibility to your country, right?
You have a responsibility to participate. Wow, look at me and Charlie agreeing tonight. Oh,
I know that is just for the people who don't know. Just for the people that don't know, they never agree.
But we don't agree. So, all right, Pat is saying, I'm just trying to figure out if they're ineffective on purpose or not. And so he was still talking about the Democrats. Ludi said, uneducated women who are not aware of women's struggles for equal rights. That's part of the problem, right? Ignorant people. And so let's see. Cash said, no one's coming here to join on the losing side. Really? I mean,
let's go back to that.
Yeah. So you're saying that because the Democrats appear to be losing, that we should just join side with the other people? Like that seems
well, I refresh Cash's memory. There was a war called the American Revolution. In the beginning of the American Revolution, which was fought by militias that had African American members of that militia, both enslaved and freemen were part of these militias. That's how it was up in the North. The South did not have militias that were like that. But up in the North, you had these mixed militias. All right. We lost the Battle of Concord. We lost the Battle of Lexington. We lost the Battle of Bunker Hill. Okay. Although there was, we had a little bit of success in that field, but we lost majority of the opening engagements of the actual American Revolution. All right. But in the end, Americans won the actual war. So you can appear to be losing all the way to the last.
So you win, right? It's not about the battle. It's about the war.
Exactly. I'll give a perfect example. Cash is a football fan. All right. The Buffalo Bills and the Houston Oilers. They in the playoffs. Houston Oilers were up in the third quarter, 30-0. The last quarter, here comes the replacement quarterback for the Bills. Guess who won the game? The Bills. It came up from 30-0 to win the game. So you can you're behind kicked all the way through, whatever, okay, and you can still coming in. The point is you have to go ahead and fight.
And you got to.
And fight for what you believe in. Okay.
Another comment here.
So let's see. Toya said, I remember that too, Liz. He's a monster. It's just like Charles said, the majority no longer has a grip on the U.S. due to increased interracial families and the influx of Latin people. Actually, if I may, I know that Charles mentioned earlier too that because I forget the question that you phrased exactly here, but the first thing he led with was because it was founded on Christian principles. It has less to do with Christianity and more to do with nationalism, right? And the fear that the previous majority has of becoming the minority. So why do white women get behind these things? Because their white sons aren't going to be as powerful as their white fathers were. It has nothing to do with religion. It has everything to do with fear and being overcome by that. Believe me when I tell you, right? Because you have many an atheist white person that'll still get behind the idea that we can't be a minority. We can't let these people take control. So it's not a religious thing; it's a nationalism thing, and it's a white superiority thing, and they're
So,
losing grip on that.
But white nationalism has always used religion as the tool for oppression. So because that the religion is a tool for oppression, they run hand in hand, and you cannot separate one from the other. Okay, here in this country, the entire Confederates, all the Confederates said it was ordained by God for people like you, Liz, for people like my sister, for people like me, for people like my wife to be in slave chains. It was ordained by God. That is the literal quote from the cornerstone speech by the Confederacy. Okay,
that's not fiction, right? But that's every religion. That's not specific to Christian people.
It is.
That Muslim people say the same thing. Muslim men say that it is ordained by God that their women will be footstools.
Islam. If it was founded on Islam, I would be saying Islam instead. Okay, but it wasn't. This country was founded and embraced by and they utilized the Christian religion out of Europe. Well, I'm not talking about the Christian religion out of Ethiopia. Those are two fundamentally different things. Okay, you're talking about Ethiopian Christian religion. Okay, Christianity. That's totally different. I'm talking about Protestant Catholicism. I'm sorry, Protestant Christianity. Protestant Christianity is rooted into this country, plain and simple. Okay, we've only had one Roman Catholic president. Okay, that was JFK. Now we got the second one, which is Biden.
Let me cut you guys off real quick. So it's interesting because I do know that I love learning history. You're a history buff. Liz loves history. We all love to read. We all had a things going on. But that still seems kind of like a small minority compared to the mainstream. The mainstream is with the now, what's going on. The young people. Some of us have older, young adults. They're voting now. And what you hear in the mainstream is when I go and buy some groceries, the bill is high. I mean, you could be able to afford it, but the grocery bills are high. Biden and the economy don't go hand in hand. And you hear this complaint. You hear this complaint, though, from a lot of people in reference to how much milk costs, how much chicken costs, how much this. Because even though you have a group of people like us who we're picking up the books and we're doing research, and you may ping Liz on the side and say, hey, Liz, now turn to page 32 and read this, what I said. And she said, no, page 44. Even though it seems like there's a lot of us here who love history and we'll go back and forth and we'll have these intellectual conversations. The mainstream, the young youth, they don't sit and be reading all that. They like the TikTok facts. They go real quick through it. They like quick information, and they do complain. Why is the gas price so high? I went to go buy. I went to a park today. I went to the park, got some chicken tenders with some fries, a kid's one, an adult's one, and an avocado wrap for myself. Came to $75. Never in a million years did you think those things that I just named came to $75. Even at an amusement park, the parking's $40 just to get in. So when you see this, that's what it seems as if younger people, the mainstream are complaining about. Do you think that Biden was good on the economy since you see that the prices of your regular grocery goods are going up?
Everyone has a issue with the economy when they're not making money. Okay, so there are people who made a lot of money under Trump and then there are people who didn't make any money under Trump. There are people who are making money under Biden, but they're not people who are making any money under Biden. Okay, it all depends on which side of the coin that you're on. So the people who are currently complaining about Biden, oh, he's not great on the economy. I don't have any issues with the economy. Okay, I don't. Okay, I go there, I buy what I buy. My money covers all my bills. Me and my wife, whatever, you know.
Have you seen an increase though?
Huh?
Have you seen an inflation?
I've seen an increase by that's called inflation.
Yeah.
Inflation.
If you understand how the economics of capitalism work, whatever, okay, then guess what? You wouldn't have any problem with it. Okay, live in a capitalist.
I like what you just wait, time out. I like what you just said. If you understood how economics work, then you wouldn't have a problem with it. Because the average person does not seem to understand how these things work, and then they're just voting. They vote off a feeling. Like, fuck,
it's a feeling, right? It's a feeling and a lack of education. Because when you say that the kids are saying, the kids are saying, my gosh, why is gas so high? Well, okay, I've never heard anybody say, oh my gosh, why is minimum wage so high? Right? And so people are getting paid now. Seriously, think about it, right? People are getting paid so much more now than they've ever gotten paid. You have literal kids, 20 years old, that are making more money than their parents ever made in a year. If you ask a 20-year-old what their salary is, and you go back and you ask their parent what their salary is, most of the time they're almost on par. If not, they're gonna grossly outpace them. By the time these kids are their parents' age, they're going to be making just like ridiculous amounts of money because you have to keep up with the cost of things, right? So you can't say that you are, you're making your very first job, you're making $40,000-$50,000 a year, your first job, right? And then complain about, but gas costs so much. Well, yeah, that's like Charles said, that's inflation. That's how it works. The value of the dollar is just not what it used to be. And that's not Biden's fault. That's just how it worked. It got super accelerated because of COVID. And I'll remind everybody that COVID happened under Trump. Everything went sky high and crazy under the last guy. We happen to be living for the next day because we woke up again, but that's not Biden's fault. That seems unrealistic. In the meantime, Biden's done. I woke up one day, literally my poor husband woke up and I was jumping on the bed. Things have never happened before, right? Literally jumping on the bed because I got my email that my student loans have been canceled. That to me was like winning a lotto ticket. That was crazy. You know what I mean?
So wait, to cut you off real quick. How do you feel about the comments that are made? Like, hey, you got this discount, you got this waived bill. Us taxpayers are paying that debt. You decided to go to school. You majored in history or whatever that degree was in. You may not even be working in it. How dare you have me pay for that bill? You racked up this bill of $100,000. Now me and Charles are paying, or whoever. Like, how do you feel? Because there are a lot of people who are against that. Like, who the hell is paying for these education debts that you have? Are you just kind of like whatever, or do you see
it kind of is a whatever type of thing, right? Because here's the thing: everybody that's going to school or not is doing so at the cost of somebody else. So the fact of the matter is, the people that are sitting around doing absolutely nothing, that don't have any student loan debts, that also don't have any jobs and don't have any money, and sit around collecting whatever they can collect all day long, they're on taxpayer dollar too. You know what I mean? Here I am working. The reason that my loans were forgiven, by the way, is because I had them for over 20 years. I probably would have had them for the next 20 years because they weren't my highest priority, if I'm being honest with you, right? If you make the minimum payment on anything, you'll never pay it off. And I don't know too many people that are, working class people that are going out of their way to pay $1,000 a month, right? So here's the thing: your taxpayer dollars would have been in the ether anyway. I've owed that money for the last 20 years. I would have owed it for the next 20 years. It really wasn't your problem to begin with. It was my problem. And now it's gone. It's a problem that's been solved. So it's ridiculous to get hung up on things like that, because when you send your kids to public school versus private school, you've also decided that taxpayers should pay for your children's education. You walk into an emergency room knowing that you can't pay those bills. I'm paying for your medical bills, and nobody's complaining about that. That's just a part of being in a cooperative society. I mean, so yeah.
Well, the problem with the people who are saying this, and I also hear a lot of immigrants who come over and they get this, blah 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 blah, and they feed, is that America has been fed this bullshit illusion And the bullshit illusion is that I pull myself up with my two bootstraps and I go out there and
we hear that a lot.
And I hammer it out, and I walk up to the big stone wall, and I take my chisel, and I make my I stake my claim, whatever. Okay, that's a bullshit American illusion that they've been fed this since the day they were born. Okay, and they will probably continue to be being fed it. Okay, it's the biggest lie, the biggest con job that has ever been fed in this entire freaking country. Okay, our country, as it and from its very inception, okay, was getting loans from Spain, was getting loans from France. Okay, our entire economy was based off of loans. All right, now we paid those loans off on the backs of slaves. Okay, so our entire country economics has been based off of handouts. Okay, and then handouts for only a certain demographic. Okay, okay? That demographic.
Okay. But that's what irks me. You're making some good.
Well, I mean, it shouldn't irk you. Okay.
Well, I was gonna say what irks.
Because that's the nature of the fucking damn beast.
Well, what irks me is the fact that we have so many people just absolutely have amnesia. That's what irks me. Because
I don't think they have amnesia. They know. They don't give two shits.
Oh, they do have amnesia. They do have amnesia.
I have talked to so many people, whatever, okay, and they know that what the country has done. They don't give two fucks, okay, that you had to suffer for.
So okay, so if I hear you saying like, okay, whatever happened in the past, that's the past. Right now, okay, I hear what you're saying. Let's go to the comments that are coming in real quick.
Yeah. So let's see. Toya said, I've seen where now you can select your race or ethnicity as Hispanic white or Hispanic black.
Yeah.
I have feelings about that. By the way, we should have always had that as an option, because that would be like you going any place and saying, well, you're American. If they're asking about race or ethnicity.
The Civil War movie said, what type of American?
What type of American, right? So Ludi said, and fight we will. She was talking about that, staying in the fight until the very end, right? And so
about it was when it came to Hispanic, there's that so many Hispanics when they first came over, they actually identified with the African American community. Okay, we're talking in the 1960s going to 1970s and early 1980s. So very strong support and unity within these communities. Why? Because especially here in New York, when you had the eminent domain, which created the Cross Bronx Expressway, which forced a lot of Latinos to live in the same hoods with African Americans. Okay, and so because of that close proximity to each other, once the beef, of the kids finally got squashed out, whatever. Okay, for the most part, whatever, you can rock. We as different communities. Okay, we can actually rock together. So my best friend growing up, whatever, was Dominican. Okay, so forth and so on, right? Okay. However, the establishment saw this as happening. Okay, and just as they said before, okay, we cannot allow the Browns to unite. Okay, because I'm so quick to remind all my African American friends. Okay, who like to use the word black. Your skin is not actually black. Your skin is brown. Okay, so we're brown just like everyone else. Okay, that is the scientific 100% genetics, whatever. Okay, you are brown. There's no black people on this fucking planet. All right. So all of us brown people, if we were united, we are now the majority of this actual country. So what do? You go ahead and now you separate them.
Just like dividing them.
Just like they did with Bacon's Rebellion. Okay. When the Irish and the African Americans got together and they kicked out the governor of Virginia, what did they do when the rebellion was suppressed? They elevated the Irish above. Okay. They separated them. Oh, you're above them. Okay. Now they do the exact same thing within the Hispanic community here, where you're white Latino and you're a black Latino. Okay, or you're black Hispanic or white Hispanic, whatever.
But the bad thing about even when you hear about, okay, I'm an Afro Latino.
Calling for it.
even when you hear about the Afro Latino, like you can have somebody that's darker than me, darker than you, Charles, and I will still hear them say, "I identify as a white Latino." I'm like, wait a second, but you're darker.
Well, just like I said with
Yeah.
the leader of the Proud Boys, okay,
Mhm.
he's around your complexion, Kia.
Yeah.
All right, but every time when you look at any of his well, he's no longer the leader of the Proud Boy. He's in jail now, whatever, someone else, right? But basically, when he was the face of the Proud Boys, whatever, okay, he actually had a filter put on all of his pictures so it can be distributed, whatever, okay,
Wow.
showing him actually lighter. All right, when you see him in person, okay, he's around your complexion, Kia.
Wow.
Okay, all right, and you know the fact whatever he wants to identify as Caucasian. That was his words. He said identify as a Caucasian male.
Wow.
Okay, well his people aren't from the Caucasus Mountains, whatever. Okay, so I don't know why he's identifying as Caucasian. All right, but you know he wants to be it because he sees that as an elevation above. Okay.
Gotcha.
I do feel, by the way, Kia, that this very topic, the Black Hispanic, White Hispanic thing, is actually a show for a different day. And I'm going to toss out there something that might be confusing. Yes, it's show ideas.
It is.
This might be a little mind blowing for most people. What people don't realize, they think that Hispanic people come here and then start to identify as white. What I was trying to say is, in their countries, they already identify. If you go to any country, you have white people and you have black people. They just happen to be white or black in Mexico, or white or black in Nicaragua, or white or black in Panama. But they identified as white in their country. And the black Panamanians identified as black in their country. They didn't get here and become white. And I think that's a misconception that a lot of Americans have. Just putting that out there. Now, you said the majority will soon be the minority. Not soon be, that is a thing as we speak, right? Now, Z says, to your point, Liz, I believe that is called the Great Replacement Theory. I think we were talking about that concern that they're being replaced.
It is called the replacement theory. Yeah, I've heard it. Mm-hmm.
All right. So,
about whatever that, you know, as much as they don't want, as much as people will say, oh, it's just a theory, whatever. Okay. Well, guess what? In science, a theory means law until it is proven otherwise. So, okay. So in fact, that theory is actually correct. Why? Because the numbers of European who people identify as white, as the population increases worldwide, their numbers are decreasing. They have never been the majority. They've never been the majority. Okay, worldwide. But what they do here in the United States, they're going to give you the perception.
Yeah.
Okay, the United States is the greatest. You know, we're great. That they're everywhere. Okay, and they will always bump up their numbers. Okay,
always.
Go ahead. At one time, the Irish were not considered white. Italians were not considered white. Okay, now they are.
Now they are.
At one time, okay, what's
Jews
called
weren't considered white. Now they pretty much are.
we're not to be Caucasian or white, but now they are. Okay, all right. So, if you were Hispanic at one time, no matter whether you were light skin or dark skin, you were not considered. Now they went to buy Hispanics up to boost their numbers. So now they can say these are all the people who identify as white. Okay, we're still the majority demographic. Okay, if you were to actually go down to and go into on a cellular level, whatever, they are the minority. Okay,
go ahead.
And they,
sorry.
So like I was saying, Don Juan Ace has entered the conversation. The problem is that conversations are no longer happening in the classroom or the social structures. That's part of that Project 25 thing. That's why they're trying to get rid of the Department of Education, and they're fundamentally restructuring how it is that education works, right? And going back to Cash, not to pick on you tonight, Cash, right? But here in Florida, our governor has long since worked on these voucher programs to move all the kids that can into these, funny enough, Christian private schools largely, right? And otherwise private schools that can teach pretty much anything they want with no regard for the public school system. In the meantime, the way that those vouchers work, if anybody else knows anything about it, what they do is they say it takes approximately $8,000 to educate your child for the year. If you're taking them out of public school, we will send $8,000 to the private school to educate them. What happens is there's no money left for those of us that keep our kids in public school. So the public schools are getting shittier and shittier and less able to function. We have a teaching deficit because they're not getting paid. We're not getting the books. We're not getting anything that we need in the public school system. That's largely going to affect guess who. Right.
But once again, I want to put out there. Yes, the public education system is supposed to be there to support the kids. But you, as a parent, have to have that time to take out to educate, because even if we were to look at our own education, you know, and the schooling that we went, all three of us, I believe, had our education in New York for education, which is 10 times better than Florida. But I would always encourage parents to take that extra time out to teach what's not being taught, because the regular school systems do not teach anymore, especially even the stuff that we learned is just not there. So we definitely have to be the extra tool for those kids.
Well, I mean, that also again depends what school that you go to. You know, I mean, there are schools that are still fundamentally doing that, whatever. I mean, even though the school for my son had an issue in a different regards, so we pulled him out of that school. But as far as education was concerned, whatever, you know, the because it was a school, it was a public school, but it was a public school that was set up, established by the actual parents. So. And there was a special, I forgot the name of the program that they had here in New York, but you could essentially, if you had enough numbers, okay, you could spin off and create pretty much.
See, that's perfect. You're not going to get that from the Southern Belt. That Southern Belt, you won't get that. The Northern ones, yeah.
That's always been the problem.
Yeah.
Always been the problem here in the United States. It's North versus South. And it's still the same thing, whatever, okay? All right. When the North was settled first, they got there established first. They had their economy established first. They started pushing into the South. The South was not as developed, and the South created a caste system, a point blank caste system. Okay. Now, while you had that in the North as well. Okay, we're going back to the 17, 1800s, whatever. Okay, while you still had that caste system, it was not as severe as it was.
See for time out, because I want to let you guys know that it is after 10, but we're going to go a little bit extra because it's such a good topic, because I did have one big major question to ask, but I definitely want to get past the comments as well. But the caste system is a whole nother episode.
The education system is a whole different
thing. Yeah. But you read this last one right here.
So Don Juan said the other issue is that there is no longer any long-term wealth to gain from what I'm seeing. True. All right. So Toya said, tell it. I think that's when we were talking about. So Don Juan said, also the people that started this argument have been in college over 30 years plus ago, when colleges were 151% cheaper than it is now.
Yep.
It was much cheaper.
Right. So Alice was saying they love those dog whistles because, whenever you start talking about, doing positive things that affect certain people, then it becomes, oh, they're coming off of our taxpayer dollars. Please get off your couch. And so he also said the whole country was built off the backs of free laborers. Get the fuck out of here. So again, thank you for my loan forgiveness on my student loans, because I've been working real hard my whole adult life.
Well, let me give 2 snaps then. Okay.
And so it's your boy D. If it's not affecting them,
son.
They don't care. Shout out to your boy D. He said, but if it's not affecting them, they don't care. Right? It's let's see. Don Juan said, our school has been blessed to have free financial literacy and health education programs that come in and teach the upperclassmen. That would be a school in New York, you guys. That is not a school in the South, right?
Not in Florida.
So, and kind of putting a period on this whole education thing. I know Kia mentioned that it's a parent's responsibility to educate their children. It truly is. But the reality of it is, this is not the 50s where you have the dutiful wife staying at home with the children. They get out of school and you come home and you have a snack and you're educating them. So nowadays, both parents have to work, and they have to work some good hours, right? You add in a commute and everything else. There is no way in the world that you're going to be able to educate your child and take full responsibility for your child's education. You should be buffering and assisting with the education process. But at a minimum, as a country, we need a minimum standard of education that you can expect your children to be taught at school. And as they go through getting rid of books and getting rid of what they want to teach and limiting what you can learn in history and everything else, that is a danger and a threat. We've always heard, right, that knowledge is power. And what they're doing is going out of their way to suppress the amount of power that we can have by limiting just how much knowledge our children can expect to receive from the system.
So my last question for first, I want to say just recently, I want to say this Friday, Michelle Obama's mother passed away. So I don't know if you guys noticed that or heard about that. But anytime somebody dies, I'm like, oh, that's sad, especially somebody mama. But just moving forward, my last question that I had, and I'm reading some quotes that I've been seeing. So somebody says that Jesus was convicted in a sham trial and crucified. I still follow him. Then some people have turned their profile page with the American flag upside down. Some people have also put, I'm standing down, but I'm ready. There have been a lot of different people, because it could go on and on, of course, who have now said, hey, there's a bullet. I'm waiting. I'm ready to rock and roll because it's not going to go down if my president, like whatever happened on January the 6th, you ain't seen nothing yet. You should never live your life in fear. You should always be prepared regardless of what that looks like. But do you feel personally, you two, that if Donald Trump is not acquitted or something happens with the Supreme Court and they wipe away miraculously these charges, also he, something happens where he's not elected as president, do you think it'll be worse than what you've seen on January the 6th? Since there are already people like, I'm ready for it to pop off. I'm tired of you guys. These liberals are out of control. I stand by him. I die by him. Do you think that this will, get worse?
There's a lot of posturing. There's a lot of cowards that are out there. Okay. And people will talk all the shit, run their mouth, whatever. And I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, whatever. Okay. And unless they actually have all the numbers at one spot and at one time, whatever, okay, they're not going to do a damn thing. You may have your lone wolves, the ones that will do X, Y, and Z, whatever. And this, domestic terrorism, whatever, has always been a thing in this country, whatever. So let's not say that it hasn't. Okay,
it's not new.
Yeah, it's not new, So so people always want to seem to forget whatever, all the white nationalists of the 70s, and all the bombings, the civil rights bombings that were done, at churches, whatever, just trying to get you the right to vote, whatever. Okay, that's domestic terrorism. All right. It's just that it wasn't, it was brown skinned people that were getting blown up, whatever. So no one seemed to give a fuck. They didn't seem to care. All right. So domestic terrorism is nothing new in this country. Will there be a massive civil war with Trump supporters because they don't feel their guy won? All right, that's debatable. I really, knowing the scared white male, it's very, 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 very possible. Okay, they'll burn down the entire country before they feel before it will slip out of their hands. All right. But at the same time, I also know that so many of them are in fact cowards unless they actually have the masses of numbers. So unless they're all there at the same time, at the same place, they're not going to do a damn thing. So unless they're all rallying up in front of the White House like they did on January 6th, okay, where they can say, okay, we have the numbers to overthrow this, whatever. But as you saw, the rest of the country stood down. Okay. All right. So they thought, it's going down. It's going down. We're about to set the revolution off, whatever. Okay. Well, they set the revolution off, for a good, 2 hours. All right. Okay. And
not
then
for 2 hours.
And that revolution ran out of steam very quickly. Okay. All right. Because they didn't have the rest of the numbers. Because the majority of Americans of any ethnic demographic, whatever, is not going to go ahead and be involved in that level of violence. Okay. They may get angry, they may this, whatever, okay, all right, okay, and they'll try to hopefully get better with the next guy, okay? All those MAGA people, whatever, they have a lot of loud voices, okay? But I don't see them with the numbers right now for an actual revolution.
Got it. And last word with Liz, especially you can kind of twine it in with what we were talking about so we can kind of wrap it up?
All in. All right. So first things first, I know that a lot of people feel that kind of like it's this little petty bullshit that he went down for in New York, and that shouldn't be enough to disqualify him from the presidency. The only thing that I'm going to say to that, right, is if you have somebody that robbed the liquor store last Thursday and then went and killed 3 people on Tuesday, should they still be convicted not only of the 3 people that they killed on Tuesday, but also robbing the liquor store? The answer is yes. It's a crime. He was tried and he was convicted. It's not, yeah, granted, it's a smaller crime than trying to steal an entire election, but nonetheless, in a way, this is being convicted for stealing the first election. That's the information that he subverted from the public by way of this hush money scheme and everything else in order to try to keep it quiet so that he can get elected the first time. So it was election interference the first time. He's also going to go on trial and go through the motions with the election interference in Georgia, and there are other trials to come. But the fact is, he was tried by a jury of his peers in a country where we do in fact have some version of a justice system. It is imperfect, but every now and then it happens to work, right? This was about as fair as possible. I wish that we would have somebody that is in fact a Trump supporter, have the courage to come on and talk to us, because I have questions. Why is it that they've elevated this man to this godlike status? How can you possibly compare somebody like Trump to, in fact, Jesus Christ, right? Or anything like that? I have so many questions. If you guys know any Trump supporters out there, this is the challenge
You
tonight.
know what? We there was a couple. Sorry to cut you off. There was a couple of people that are Trump supporters that I do personally know, and they got the flat tire. They had all sorts of things happening, so they weren't able to come on. It was interesting. I mean, me personally, I try to present it to them. I'm neither Democrat or Republican. I'm an independent. Based on the topic, I can sway back and forth. All depends on what we're talking about. But at the end of the day, this is an unfiltered and intentional conversation. The unfiltered part is say what you want to say, be as candid as possible.
We're always respectful.
Yeah, be respectful, of course, and then
Yeah.
of course be intentional. There's a purpose of what I do. I do this because I love to have great dialogue. I do this because of the fact that I feel that great dialogue brings opportunities. Wait, Charles said what? Baker's Rebellion? I looked that up. What the hell is that? And we're pulling back those pages and dissecting a little bit more. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. There'll always be some opportunity for more great conversations. Thank you, Charles, for coming on. You haven't seen Charles yet, because for people who don't know, he will get you riled up. I'll text him like, I know you're going to say that. But I love you and thank you for your support. And thank you once again, Liz, for always doing that extra Gemini thing. Gemini season.
Hey, Gemini
you guys
season.
Yes. You guys have a great night, and thank you once again.